Hey folks, MythGoDM here. Today I thought I would talk about a recent hot topic that was all over Reddit and Twitter, and the infamous 44 rules of our Dungeon Master. Now, this post was posted apparently by one of the Dungeon Master's players, and it garnered a ton of attention, both good and bad, and we'll go through it and we'll see why. Now, first, I want to point out that I have several videos on being a good game master, being a good player, how to run a slot 0 or session 0. And really, if you're looking at getting into being a game master, I do suggest that you actually take a look at those, and I'll link those down below, and they'll be at the end of the video as well. Secondly, the DM is a kid. Now, when I say a kid, I'm in my 5th century of life.
Why are you so old?
And yes, this person is from a school that's called Bundora Secondary, which is down in Australia, and it runs from grades 7 through 12. So the kids can be as young as 15 and as old as 18. I mean, there is an age range, but I'm going to assume they're in the upper range, and we'll get into why as we go through the list. That really kind of sheds a different light. Now, someone who's like myself, who's been a game master for well over 40 years,
You're old.
would put out something like this. That's much different than someone who is clearly a little more immature and doesn't know how to handle players as well. We also see that it's obviously a very, like I said, immature group all around, not just the dungeon master, but the players themselves. You know, let's get into this list, shall we? And I'm just gonna be reading right off my laptop here. First of all, I pulled this off an archive, so the wording isn't 100% what the original post was. It's a transcription, but I thank the Redditor, Flagdroid, for posting this, and we're going to go through it. So number 1, I'm timing turns. I don't care if it's unfair in your opinion, because your spells are hard or you don't know what square to move in. You get 1 minute to know all your actions you want, or I skip your turn. I do understand a little bit of it. Again, his tone is really, really, really bad in here. And if he would change some of his expletives into a little more non-combative, I think this would have went over a lot better. But yes, I fully understand that people not knowing their spells, not knowing their character sheets, not paying attention, you know, and yes, there's even things you can do on Foundry VTT that actually times a turn and gives you a timer, runs down. I don't think it's a minute. I'd have to ask my buddy Owen, who runs the group for us. But yeah, there is a certain amount of time. And yeah, I completely understand it. I'm one of those players that looks 2 or 3 rounds ahead to see what I should do, what order I can do, and then adjust as, you know, dice go really bad for us. Number 2, if you want harder fights, bring a second character sheet and expect to twiddle your thumbs when you die. I'm not going to baby anyone. I mean, sure, having secondary characters is a good option. I know most of my players in my Pathfinder Kingmaker group, which you can see over on my Twitch channel every other Sunday, they do have secondary characters. Most of them have already built stuff through, you know, Howl of the Wild. They're looking down the road at Player Core 2 coming out in August and seeing what kind of characters they can build with that. And you know what? It's never a bad thing to have someone have a secondary character, tertiary character. It's good because they start learning the rules and they understand how other species, ancestries, and classes and stuff like that work, because they're already building another character. I really try to discourage people from playing the exact same copy of it. You know, no one needs to bring 47 bards into the game, but you know, if you know, you know. But yeah, so that's what my take would be on that. Yes, have a secondary character. If you call me or my roles unfair, I'll get up and go home. And if you got to ride with me, you can find your own way back and suck it up. Okay, again, this guy's got some problems with some players. And again, you can see the level of immaturity by just, you know, the old, I'll get up and take my ball with me and go home. No, that's not the way anything happens. I mean, if you really feel that you need to, sure. But I'm going to take your character's loot away as regular as you want it given out. Rule 3 will apply here. I don't know why you would give out loot and then take it away unless you are giving out too much loot, and you should know better. Again, that comes with maturity and it comes with learning the game and stuff. There were times, definitely when I was a younger DM, that I would give out an insane amount of stuff. I still remember one of my good friends back in my hometown found one of his character sheets when he was cleaning up his mom's old house, and it had literally every dragon egg in it, the hand and eye of Vecna, rods of power, like every artifact. This guy should have, you know, this character should have just exploded with how much power they were carrying. And it was a legitimate character, you know, but that's what we did when we were kids. It was fun. If you don't act out any of your persuasion or intimidation or any other social checks, you fail before you even roll. You fail immediately because you aren't even trying, and you're making the game lame for everyone else. So yes and no to this. Some people are not great role players. They would love to play the charismatic bard. They would like to play the dashing rogue, the enraged barbarian stuff. But some people just can't do it. They just cannot physically do the role play. They feel awkward doing it. We have this at LARP all the time. People, you know, drop out of the character because it's just too much for them. And yeah, the same thing. So I will normally ask the players what they say or what they do for persuasion or intimidation, but I don't make them RP it out unless they feel like it and we're both in the mood for it. The DM also has to be in the mood for that kind of RP. Otherwise, it just falls flat. It's really bad. If you don't pick up on cues for side quests, it's not my problem. Get over yourself. It is not a video game. It's a role-playing pen and paper game based with miniatures. I'm not holding your hand if you choose not to pursue stuff. Fair enough. That happens. We're playing in our Kingmaker series, which Kingmaker is an extreme sandbox. It is so sandbox. But there are stuff that the players want to go do. They don't want to go do. They will choose and pick and choose. And as a GM, you kind of have to learn either how to steer people towards stuff or just learn that you're going to have to improvise and change the way your game is going to work. Perfect example is the previous game we just ran with our Pathfinder group. Our druid decided to go out into the woods. And I thought it'd be a great time to introduce the owlbear problem that, you know, they could have taken on 3 or 4 levels below, but it turned into an amazing role-playing session and it was fine. And, you know, that worked out really well, but sometimes they just miss stuff and you have to move past it. Number 7, if you move into a square in combat, there are no takebacks. So this game is not chess. That is an odd thing. I understand why they're probably trying to speed their combat up a little bit, but that's a very weird thing. And if I was a player and the DM was doing that, I would be forcing the DM to also do the exact same thing with their monsters. And the moment they move them, they're done too. It has to work both ways. It's still an absolutely asinine rule, but you know, what can you do? Number 8, you tell every single person what you're doing before you do it. You don't roll dice and then say you're casting fireball, etc. You tell us all. Okay, so this is definitely someone who's probably cheating in their group. And I've seen this before when I ran the RPGA, Living Greyhawk and Living Forgotten Realms and stuff. People would roll a dice off to the side. They would have stuff in front of their, you know, so you couldn't see the dice rolls and stuff. And then they would say, oh, I rolled an 18. Oh, I'm going to roll to hit or cast a spell or whatever. So I do understand that. Declare your actions before dice hit the ground. That is actually a very staple thing. Number 9, I will give out exhaustion more frequently. If you argue, go home, or you can actually fight me over it, or you can DM yourself. Okay, so again, that's just immaturity beyond all belief. You know, you're going to fight your DM because he gives out exhaustion and the DM is egging you on to fight. That's just, again, you can tell that these are immature people. No adult is going to ever put that down. At least you shouldn't. Don't do that. Number 10, every snide comment you make to an NPC will be remembered and paid back in triplicate. You all seem to believe there's little consequence. So again, I do understand that. And yes, I do make notes of NPC interactions that my players have with them and how they interact. In the beginning of the Kingmaker series, you're at a big feast and you actually do interact with a whole bunch of NPCs. And there's actually a social roles section for it, et cetera, and it does have consequences. But those consequences do carry on into the rest of the game. So how they treat NPCs, and not every NPC is supposed to be treated nicely. There are some NPCs that are, you create them to be annoying, assholes to people, everything like that. You want to get that visceral response. My players understand the name Tartuccio, and they will absolutely murder that guy if he ever shows his face again. But you know, that's absolutely fine to me. That's fine. You will not be given a mega dungeon every session. A temple is not the size of a small city, neither is a cave. This stuff will happen when it's natural and organic. Go play some roguelike if you want that. Again, I can understand it. No, you don't have time to build a mega dungeon every single session, and you couldn't get through a mega dungeon every single session. Sessions should last between 3 and 4 hours. If you're lucky, you get, I don't know, maybe 3 combats in, plus RP, plus downtime, plus chatting, etc., etc. So yeah, you couldn't have a mega dungeon every time anyway. And a lot of people don't want to have that continuous dungeon crawl. They need to have a break. Number 12, the travel portion is done. You want to travel continents doing literally whatever you want, wherever you go. Go play World of Warcraft or play D&D with AI. Okay, again, fair enough. Again, if your game is not meant to be sandbox and it's supposed to be site-based, this is something, again, that would be an absolute super important thing in your session 0, your slot 0, to tell your players, hey, this is the world I've created. These are the areas you're going to be in. No, you won't be able to travel outside these boundaries unless I am ready to, because I have not prepared that area, et cetera, et cetera. And just be very honest with your players. You know, they need to know what your limitations are as well. And you need to tell them very succinctly, like, you know, this is what we're going to be doing. In one of our games we're playing right now that I'm actually playing in is the Abomination Vaults. It is a dungeon crawl. It is a dungeon crawl from level 1 through 10. We know it's a dungeon crawl. We're not going to try to run to Absalom. We're not going to try to run all over the map. We know that the adventure is based in the dungeon, and, you know, we're going to be in Atari, and that's it. I mean, that's what you have to be able to tell your players right off the bat. That's exactly where a session 0 comes into play. Number 13, if you are late with no good reason, I'm going to have your character's hit points for the entire session. Okay, that's a little harsh. Obviously, now again, my guess is there's 1 or 2 players that are habitually late in this group, and the DM is absolutely sick and tired of it. But sometimes you can do that sort of thing. But, you know, having the hit points, at that point, the player would just look at you and be like, then I'm not even going to bother coming, because why should I be frustrated? And then you're down a player, which honestly might be a way to get the person out of your game, but it's a really bad way to do it. Number 14, if you don't show up for no good reason, and that will be determined by me alone, if no one else has the guts to say stuff for fear of upsetting one another, the first time you'll find yourself either losing a whole level or up to 3 major items of your own. The second time you do it in a row, you'll be removed from the chat and the group, full stop. I have no time for people to not show up. So again, yes, this is definitely something that's happening in that group. 1 or 2 people are just ghosting, which is bad. Let your DM know, and let them know far enough in advance. You know, if you just don't feel like playing, just tell them, I don't feel like playing. Everyone has reasons for not being there. Everyone has their own stuff. Just be honest and be upright with your group and your DM, and let them know that's going to happen. You know, as an adult trying to get myself and 4 to 6 other people to get their schedules to align with people with kids, people with jobs, people with schoolwork, all that stuff. There's reasons why people aren't going to be there. Having losing levels is just, again, idiotic and stupid and immature, which is what we see in this group as a repetitive problem, and it just won't work for anyone else. All right, this is a big one. Number 15, if you get too stoned or drunk to play, I will go home without warning. Your warning is here. So again, this could be an issue, especially if they are under 18. Australia, the drinking age is 18. Not that I've never underage drank before in my life, but also smoking weed down in Australia is also illegal. So there's 2 things that are happening that shouldn't be. Now, in my group, even when I was younger, we were more focused on playing the games and stuff than just coming over and getting drunk or, you know, smoking marijuana. So that is, again, a big red flag. It sounds like this group just is trying to get together and saying, hey, you know, Mom, we're going over to play Dungeons and Dragons with friends, and then just, you know, getting shit-faced and or smoking up. That's a bad warning right there. And you know what? Honestly, I have no problem with a GM or whatever saying, no, there's no alcohol allowed, no drugs, and especially the fact that it's illegal. Up here in Canada, weed isn't. Still, if the DM doesn't want you doing that, don't. You can find other times to do that sort of thing. So number 16, if you get up for bong or smoke or whatever breaks every 10 minutes, I'll simply pack up and go home. I'm sick of waiting for every bloke to be at the table. So again, this is something that should be brought up in the slot 0. Hey, you know, we're going to have designated smoke breaks if you need it. Again, I would be kiboshing the whole smoking weed just because it's illegal down there. But also, you don't have to wait for every player to be here. People have to do bathroom breaks. People have to go grab a drink, grab a snack, whatever. the game can continue without them. And honestly, if you're in a massive combat and someone wants to leave, then I guess they're missing their turn. That's how I would deal with it. If it's at this point when he's putting this out there, it's obviously a big enough problem that, again, this is something that should have been stressed in a slot 0. Number 17. Okay, this is guidance, divination spells, owls, and whatever spells I decide are too stupid and are banned outright. No more guidance. I agree with that. Guidance is well overpowered in Dungeons and Dragons. It needs to be more like Pathfinder, where you have guidance immunity for, I believe it's an hour in Pathfinder. So it is not I'm going to do something guidance. I'm going to do something guidance. I'm going to do something guidance. It becomes just repetitive and annoying. And yes, the GM, again, in your slot 0, you tell your players what you're allowing, what you're not allowing, and how your rules are going to differ. You get one chance at a skill check. If you screw up, the party doesn't get their chance to do the same check. Think carefully who's good at what. So this takes a lot of metagamey stuff happening at the table. Also, it depends on the skill. Now, if you're trying to negotiate with someone for a better price when you're out buying stuff, or you're trying to, have the dragon not eat your party, yeah, I think probably one check and you're done. But things like picking a lock, lifting a gate, climbing, those all are multiple skill checks and have absolutely no bearing in the rules about doing it multiple times. So again, this one, I think he just needs to be more precise on what he means by that. I don't think it's a blanket check, but I mean, if you make one stealth check, you're done making your stealth checks. That's the ruling. Number 19, discussion of metagame details and game result of instant damage to your character. I mean, instant damage isn't a good thing, but yeah, metagaming is where you take your outside knowledge of the player and you bring it into the game as your character, such as knowing that trolls are weak to fire in Pathfinder, but your character may not know that. That's why we have recall knowledge checks, et cetera, et cetera. So again, yes, metagaming is bad. Just it's annoying. Number 20, rules lowering fellow players is encouraged. Actuallying me will result in me telling you to screw off. Okay, so it's fine for people to rules lawyer each other around the table, but telling the DM he's wrong on a rule is bad. So again, super immature. I am of the sound mind that I do not know all the rules. I do not wish to know every single rule and every single detail. If I get something wrong, my players and I will have a quick discussion about it. And yes, there's times where I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I misread that rule, or I didn't really know. And we go from there. That's how you grow as a player and as a DM. So that one just boggles my mind. And again, super immature. Number 21, if you roll your dice within view of 2 players who aren't you standard. Okay, that's a bad sentence, but you roll them neatly and you roll them on the table. Failing to do these 3 things will automatically fail whatever roll you did. Arguing that you actually rolled validly when you clearly didn't is an automatic critical fail. Okay, so again, obviously as players who are ducking dice, they're rolling it behind stuff, they're rolling it off to the side, they're doing whatever. And yes, roll your dice where people can see. It's also the same thing if you have dice that are very, very difficult to read, and I am personally guilty of that. I try to make sure that I do not have them. I like to have my high contrast dice, so someone has to look over and see what I rolled. Cool, I'm fine with that. Number 22, instant death traps and mechanics are coming into place. If you call these things unfair moving forward, I will laugh at you and tell you to go cry some more. Okay, again, instant death traps suck and it's stupid. Again, immature. Instant death mechanics are technically in the game. I know in Pathfinder, you do have that. If you take more damage than your total hit points in a negative hit, like 1 hit, you are dead. That is the rule. I believe in D&D, it's the same thing, massive damage. So there you go. Number 23, I will not give you random magical items and vendors will not stock them. They are meant to be rare and hard to acquire. Again, this is absolutely fine. You shouldn't be able to buy them like candy. I do allow in my games potions, scrolls, things that are very minor that they can purchase, common or uncommon in D&D. Pathfinder has a actual system of the level of town as the level of item you can get, and their items are actually quite expensive comparative to what the players get as rewards. So that's fine, but it also encourages more crafting. Anywho, yeah, you don't need magic item shops. Number 24, random encounters in the form of random dragons or strange, mysterious road trader or a band of goblin prostitutes isn't going to happen. Go play Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, sure. I think that's fine. You don't want to do random encounters and stuff like this sort of thing with the players are apparently talking about. Again, that's fine as a DM. That's your call. I don't give any F's about what Reddit said about X or Y ruling. Again, Reddit can be an absolute cesspool of rules lawyering, rules arguments back and forth, especially for very ambiguous games like D&D, where there are other games, Pathfinder, where I find that the rules form on Reddit is a little bit more precise because the game usually has a mechanic that states how a rule works. So it's a little less ambiguous. Number 26, I actually give less about what your mate's group did. Okay, so you're playing in another group and he says, in my group, we did this. He doesn't care. And again, that should have been brought up in a session 0. Again, it's just really badly written. You can tell, again, this is a very immature person. Number 27, saying anything to me about other players not liking me or doing X and Y without them saying it directly to me will result in me kicking you out of the group. Don't use someone else to push your own agenda. So basically that's like, Jimmy says to the GM, well, Freddie here doesn't like the way you do this, even though Jimmy's the person who actually doesn't like it. So they're using Freddie as an excuse, et cetera, et cetera. Talk to your GM. This is why you should be able to have communication. This group, though, is incapable of talking to each other. You can already tell. All right. Number 28. You're not to sit down and take a 2-hour discussion about what Samson from Bandura Secondary did 3 weeks ago when you come to play. Take the 15-20 minutes I used to set up and review my notes to talk to each other and then sit down to play. So again, this is what we're talking about. Bandura Secondary is again a grade 7 to 12. And I agree, take the time. Obviously the DM is coming over to someone's place. Normally if it's your own place, your stuff should be set up already. But yeah, everyone wants to take a little bit of downtime, catch up on the week, especially us old folks who have, busy work lives, busy home lives. We want to see what everyone's doing, chat with everyone, get it out of the system, and then let's get into playing. That's absolutely fine. All right, number 29. Saying things like, guys, come on, we're here, and we're not here to have fun, but we're here to play D&D. This is serious business. Is rude and dismissive of how much work I put into this. I will simply go home if I hear this. I'm very confused on this. So he doesn't want it to be serious, but he's finding it rude and dismissive of how much work he put into it. I don't even get this line. I really don't understand. If anyone out there knows what he means by this, let me know in the comments. I seriously do not know what he means. Number 30, don't order food randomly. We'll eat together at a specific time or not at all. I don't want food all over my things. I mean, we do that in our group. We either get really early to someone's place and order food, or we do order food all as a group. I mean, not everyone's tastes are the same. So sometimes we'll all order different things and things can show up at a different time, but it can't be that big of a deal if people are eating. I mean, sometimes you are didn't get a chance to go get supper. So, and he doesn't want food all over his things. Now, I would assume he means battle mats. Maybe he handed out books or something. That's weird. Oh, number 31, no food or drinks near any of my D&D gear. If you wreck something, you can pay for it. I let one person trash my DM screen once and never had it replaced by them. In fact, I had that person attempt to gaslight me into believing they didn't wreck anything at all. I'm not stupid. You're an adult. I don't think so. Act responsibly. Yes, I agree with that. If you wreck something of your friends, you should offer to pay for it. You should offer to replace it at least. Sometimes you can't because you don't have the funds or whatever. Again, this is, to me, seems like a younger group, so they might not have that sort of thing, but you got to do something. Don't wreck other people's stuff. Number 32, arguments between party members outside of roleplay will be resolved by me giving the definitive ruling. If you don't like it, go home. Okay, so basically, if two people are arguing over a rule, the DM's going to call it, and that'll be it. I mean, that's fair. The DM is the final say at their table. I mean, again, the wording is absolutely childish and immature, so that's not helping his cause any. If he would have just left it, I think it would be fine. Number 33, I don't care what they did in Critical Role or what that one guy on Reddit said, or if you think it all is make-believe so you can do what you want. The world I run works on internal rulings and lore I created specifically for it. Again, yeah, worded poorly, but yeah, I mean, yes, I personally don't care what Critical Role did either, and I really don't care what people will say on Reddit. If I have an issue with a ruling, I will make it, but otherwise, I don't care as well. Number 34, every single person in this chat is having debuffs applied to their characters that should have occurred a long time ago This will be specific to characters. I don't know what he means by that. Obviously, that's something that they're talking about internally. I don't know what debuffs he's talking about, so I can't really make a ruling on it. Obviously, he's allowed some stuff to slip past that he's deciding not. Again, really good reason to have a session 0, slot 0, is to get that out of the way before. Number 35, you don't bring your sheet, you don't play. Fair. If we're doing paper characters, I normally will take the characters back myself anyway. That's just easy. If it's electronic, there's no excuse for it because it's electronic. If you don't bring your dice, borrow some. Sure, I've got the giant popcorn bucket D20 from the Dungeons and Dragons movie last year, the popcorn bucket, and it is literally full of dice. I have hundreds of dice. Like I said, I used to run a game store, so I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dice. You can borrow them. Number 37, when we play D&D, I'm not your friend. That doesn't mean you treat me like an enemy during the game. That means I'm no longer being nice. I'm not your friend, but don't treat me like an enemy during the game. Again, really poorly worded. It really doesn't make sense. And yes, we're friends. If you're not playing with your friends or being friendly with the people you're playing with, just walk away. Both sides, like players and GM. Number 38, if you treat me poorly in any way, shape, or form during or before the game due to something that happened in the game, you're out. If you cannot separate the game from reality, I think you are a moron and I have little time to deal with that energy. Fair enough. Again, that's fine. It's just poorly worded. And we have that, we call it bleed in LARP, where your character's actions will stay with you emotionally after the game. Some people have trouble separating the two. It takes a little bit of time for them to wind down on that. You feel targeted by your DM, as in your character is targeted by your DM and, makes a call that kills your character or whatever. Yeah, you're going to have bad feelings about it. That's going to happen. Again, talk with your GM. You should be able to have these kind of conversations. All right, number 39, you will submit your spell list daily in game. If you do not give me a spell list each in-game day, that you will not be allowed to cast a single spell or cantrip in combat. I do not trust you guys to not use this against me. You know what? That's fair. I always show my spell list when I play Pathfinder is right there. Again, electronically, it's there. And in person, I have it on my character sheet. So it's just there. And you can see it where if I've scratched off a spell and I've changed the spell for the day or whatever. I'm an old school guy. I do like pen and paper. And yes, I agree with them. Sure. Other than you can't cast any of your cantrips. Number 40, if you do not mark off spell slots or you say something like, I remember what I'm at, as a way to justify it, I simply fail your spell, deal half your health in damage to you, and say you have no spells to cast for the rest of the day. Okay, again, a little harsh, very combative tone. Yeah, mark off your stuff as you're going. That should be. Again, electronically, very nice because like in Fantasy Grounds, when you cast a spell, it removes how many spells you had or removes the spell off your list. In Foundry, it does the same thing. If you click the cast button, it grays out the spell for you so you know it's been cast. Again, if you're playing pen and paper, they should be having a list of spells. A good thing to do is also have them on, you can either make cards or have spell cards, buy spell cards, whatever. And literally they can have them in front of them. If they use them, they just literally put them away. Number 41, if you break literally anything, you can buy the replacement that day or not attend until you do. So again, someone broke something of his. Apparently it's that DM screen or maybe even other things. And he's sick and tired of it. Yes, the stuff is expensive. If you break something, own up to it. You probably can't run out that day and pick it up, but please have it for your GM for the next game. And if you can't, explain to him why you can't, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, this is again where the communication comes in. Number 42, if you complain about the choice of music, I fully expect you to bring a whole playlist next session or shut up. I'd bring my own playlist, but that's just me. But yeah, that's an interesting one, something to talk about in this session 0. You're going to be using music. You'll be using music of this type of variety, et cetera, et cetera. If I was at a game and someone was blasting opera in my face for the entire game, I would be a no, or country music.
Are you such a dick?
Anyway, so yeah, that's one thing you, again, should talk to your players in your slot 0. 43, cannot stress enough how little I care about how you feel about my rulings from now on. This is a DM who's just checked right out. They're not having fun anymore, it seems. The players are, one or two or more of the players are very combative with them. This is where you just walk away. And number 44, I'm never threatening you. I'm just promising you. Again, immature, beyond immature. So we can see why this group should definitely take a break or just, the DM should stop DMing. Again, I think the DM and the players just need to take a complete break from each other for sure. The players really need to reassess if they want to play this game and if they want to play with this DM. The DM clearly has issues with one or more of these players, and they either need to just punt them or find a completely different group. Now, I would also suggest to the DM that this would be a time to go and play, not run, but play with another group. Hopefully they would learn some valuable skills in dealing with these kind of conflicts and dealing with these kind of problem players and seeing how other DMs handle this sort of thing, and hopefully learn how better to articulate his feelings towards this list, because it's pretty, like, it's very hostile. No matter what you want to say about it, it's hostile. Again, a lot of immaturity. So I hope that they do work it out. I hope that this guy finds a better group or finds a couple better players, etc., and does not have this kind of stress. Being a game master is hard enough. Having these added stresses just make the game no fun, and the game has to be fun for both the players and the game master. If one side or the other are not having fun, it is time to slow down, reassess, and possibly just call her quits and go your separate ways, retool it, whatever. Take a break, play a different game. You know, there's so many other games you could try to play. Hell, just play a board game, not Monopoly, not Settlers of Catan, because that'll just start a fist fight. But just learn to enjoy being with each other, and if it's not working out, just stop. Let me know in the comments below what you think about these 44 rules. I'd love to hear some other perspectives on what the DM did correct and what he got wrong in dealing with the situation, where he stated what I think. If you'd like me to do more videos about discussing these kind of, horror stories, let me know that as well, and I can add it to my list. That's it for me today, and I will see you all in the next video. If you're enjoying the content, please remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and even ring that bell for notifications. Please leave a comment below, even if it's just your favorite emoji, for that good old YouTube algorithm, and perhaps even think about joining my Patreon or hit that YouTube membership. Both will provide exclusivity in my Discord channels and among other perks. In the meantime, in between time, that's it for me. May all your games be full of myth, mirth, and magic. Bye for now.